Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good question. I think a lot of the problem, bismillah, a lot of the problem is Muslims have been so attacked for so long. And we've been kind of the brunt of this Christian onslaught, making fun of our religion, saying things about our Prophet ﷺ. And there is certainly a certain type of Christian that indulges in that. But if you look at the Christians that do that, they're like the Muslims that do the same thing on the other side. They're uneducated. They're usually very provincial in their outlook. And they're pretty much against everybody. So it just, the Prophet ﷺ was very gentle with people. He I mean, even the ulama say those three are different types. Imam al-Ghazali says they're based on the different types of people. There's an interesting, how many people have read Malcolm Gladwell? A lot of people, huh? Did people read The Tipping Point probably? How many people read What the Dog Saw? Less. Yeah. Anyway, Malcolm, does anybody know about his friend, I think his name's Charlie Moskowitz, the food tasting guy? Spaghetti, ragu spaghetti, prego. This guy, he's a psychophysicist, these people that do metric physics, where they measure things, and they're used in food industry to get the right ingredients in processed food. You have to have exactly the right. It's why Starbucks coffee tends to taste the same wherever you go in any Starbucks, because they do it based on these psychometrics. But anyway, Moskowitz, they wanted to make the perfect Pepsi, and Moskowitz took him a while to realize it, but he realized that there wasn't a bell curve. It just didn't work. You didn't get this dominant group of people in the middle. The plots were all over the place. And basically what he realized is that people tend to fall into three categories. It's very common. And these categories are mentioned, even the believers fall into three categories. The ظالم لنفسه مقتصد وسابق بالخيرات ثم أورثنا الكتاب الذين اصطفينا من عبادنا. We inherited the book to those who we have chosen from our servants. فَمِنْهُمْ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. Among them are wrongdoers against themselves, but yet they're still chosen. And then amongst them are the muqtasid, the people that are middle. They do good, and then the sabiqu bil khayrat bi'idhnillah, then there's the outstrippers. All of those, the believers make up those three categories. One of the most beautiful books, I think, ever written in the history of Islam was a book called Sunan al-Muhtadin by Sidi al-Mawaq. And it's really, to me, one of the most important books that I've ever read. And it's based on that verse. And what he argues is that Amr bin Ma'ruf and Nahi an al-Munkar, when you enjoin right and forbid evil, it should be based on recognizing these different categories of people. So when you speak to somebody who's zalimun li nafsi, you don't use the same logic of the person who is sabiqun bil khayrat. He says if you have somebody drinking alcohol, he'd be better off, teach him a musical instrument. Because he says that alcohol and music are very similar, and they are. And that's why they often go together. And if you look in the hadith about condemnation of music, almost every single one of them has alcohol in the same hadith. Because, as we know, even in this culture, music and alcohol tend to go together. People go and they get high. They go to the concert or listen to music. They have their drinks. That's part of the whole experience. So, he says, get them doing this. Or, like Ibn Taymiyyah when he was with his students and they saw the men playing backgammon, and he said, no, leave them. He said, if you take that away from them, they'll start backbiting. So in other words, it's a good thing for their level. But you don't want the imam or the hafiz of Quran sitting around playing chess all day long. Right? So that type of person, you should tell him, you shouldn't be playing chess. But another person, it's actually a good thing for them. And that type of fiqh is unfortunately very rare in our community. But Sidi al-Mawaq wrote an entire book based on understanding those different qualities. So the Quran, when it talks about da'wah, it has 3 different groups. Call with hikmah, with wisdom, and because there's a certain type of people that you need an intellectual discourse. Because hikmah here is using the intellect. Hikmah in pre-modern formation was the highest level of knowledge. You had science, understanding, and then wisdom. That's the highest. Science is like information. It's what you get on Google. Science is knowing the rules of grammar. But hikmah is using language for the right reasons, for wisdom. So, speaking to people at that level, there are certain people that you engage intellectually. And then there's certain people, the maw'idah, it's more emotional. You speak to them at more of an emotional level because they're not as rational. I mean, Dr. Ramadan kept saying, set aside your emotions, right? Because he's like a rational type person, but the majority of people aren't rational and they're not going to set aside their emotions. Most people are very much in the emotional realm. And those type of people, you have to speak to them in a certain way. And then also knowing temperament. Right? A lot of us don't think about temperament, but the amzija are real. People have different temperaments. Traditionally, in the Islamic tradition, you had 4 temperaments. The Safrawi, the Saudawi, the Balghami, and the Demawi. And like each person has an underlying temperament, and then they usually have a secondary temperament. And these define your personality. So a Safrawi person, they get angry easily. It's just their nature. And you might be one of those people, but people in your family that the slightest thing sets them off. And then you have a Balghami person who's just like, you can hit them over the head with an axe and they're just like, it's okay, man, I'm fine. They're just, everything, it's all mellow and I'm fine. Everything's okay. What's everybody so upset about? Right? And then you have Demawi with very cheerful personality, very outgoing, open. And Saudawi is a melancholic. They're more sad. They tend to be more academic, a lot of sadness. I mean, there's people that are just sad. It's like, why are you sad? I don't know. They say that to you. I don't know. Just feel sad. It's actually a mizaj. It's their... Now, the nice thing about knowing about the amzija, and Imam al-Ghazali says, you have to know the amzija if you're going to teach. He actually says it's a condition of being a teacher. We've got teachers with kids like that in their classrooms, and they don't get it. That you can't talk to Safrawis in certain ways the way you talk to a Saudawi or a Balghami or a Damawi. We call these in English, they're called melancholic, sanguine, phlegmatic, and choleric. Those are the older terms. But, they're real. The amzija are very real, these temperaments. In fact, Shaykh Abdullah bin Bayya, when we were in Kuwait, he said something a few years ago that just really amazed me. He said to me, we were just sitting talking, waiting in the airport, and he just said, he said most of the troubles in the world are actually, he said, mashakil al-amzija. They're just problems of temperament. They're people's temperament. I mean, even like people, like you have people, they say, Sufi people are always ragging on Wahhabis. Wahhabis are always ragging on Sufis. But the truth is, if you get a Wahhabi Balghami and a Sufi Balghami, they'll get along fine. And if you get a Safrawi Wahhabi and a Safrawi Sufi, they're going to start fighting. It's just temperament. I mean, I have good friends in Saudi Arabia, Medina, and they're Salafi. They're friends of mine. I mean, I go visit them when I go to Medina. They're teachers at Medina University. They like me. They know my background. They know where I studied. They know who I studied with. Do you know? And they're fine. They're just, because their mizaj is fine. They're not a problem. But then you get this guy who's foaming at the mouth, saying you need to correct your aqidah. And it's like, what's your problem? And the same is true on both sides. It's not just, they're all bad over there. No, on both sides. You have polemicists and all these people. And, it's amzija. Like, I generally like people, my nature. I don't box people in because somebody's like a this, that, or the other. That's not the way I look at people, because to me those things they change. You can be in one state of mind and then you see them 5 years later and it's a completely different state of mind. And they might have abandoned all their, I've had people come to me and say, profusely apologize for slandering me and backbiting and all these things. And well, that was where I was at back then, and I said, okay, fine. It's not a problem. I'm okay with it. أَيَعْجِزُ أَحَدُكُمْ أَنْ يَكُونَ كَأَبِي ضَمْضَمٍ. Is one of you incapable of being like Abu Damdam? He used to go out every day. وَكَانَ يَتَصَدَّقُ بِعِرْضِهِ. He used to give the bad things that people said about him in charity back to them. Because you get, if people speak ill of you, you get their hasanats. So he used to give it back to them as charity. That's a hadith, Abu Damdam. Prophet said, you're not capable of being like Abu Damdam. So, in da'wah, you have to really be aware that there's different types of people that are going to react differently. It's not, you can't do this speech that you give every single person you meet. Right? You've memorized this speech, and then it doesn't work like that. Some people you need to talk to a certain way, other people a different way, and that's wisdom, knowing to do that. And then the whole idea of having to prove you're right. I mean, what a sad state of affairs if you're always having to prove you're right. My religion's better than your religion. I mean, just alhamdulillah, you're a Muslim, you should be happy. And you should want for others what you want for yourself. That's true. But if they don't want it, don't shove it down their throat. I would want to share my religion with other people, but I know there are going to be people that they're happy with what they have. And there are people, I guarantee you, look, there's people that are Christian right now, they're really content. They have peace of mind. They go to bed with peace of mind. They're happy. Their religion's working for them. And you say, oh, they're mushrik, they're going to hell. Well, first of all, you don't know where they're going, right? You just don't. But second of all, they're just not looking for something. But if you meet, there are many people out there that are genuinely looking for something. They're really looking. They want to find the truth. And if you can help them on that path, then that's wonderful. But this might not be the truth they're looking for. May the best da'wah win. So I just, I would really be careful about polemics. One of the students I had